23 lawyers looking at me, working for me full time, 8 legal assistants assigned to me, $5 million book of business. And I was absolutely miserable. Couldn't stand it. $795 an hour. That's what I was billing at the time. In other words, if I said hello when you called me, it was $80 to you. And that's about what my clients did when I told them what my billing rate was. But what's interesting is my billing rate kept going up. Guess what? I got more and more business. And I kept getting more and more miserable because I got further away from the people that I got into law in practice in the beginning to help. So what ended up happening is one day I decided I was going to go talk to Logan because he and I had become very good friends. I was his lawyer on all his mergers, acquisitions deals. And we had become really good friends for a lot of other reasons, similar upbringings. I used to say I was raised so poor that I was jealous of the poor people. I can't really give you anything other than if you know anything about Dallas, South Oak Cliff is where I grew up, 2-bedroom apartment, single mom, 3 single moms in that 2-bedroom apartment, on the floor until I was 9. So then we got an upgrade to Section 8 housing. So I was there. So when I say I have a heart for helping people, it's because I know what I came from. I grew up with 6 people, and those 6 people who I considered my best friends, all 6 of them have spent time in prison, and I know all of them have done the drug thing as well. What I said was this: God blessed me with a brain and a grandmother and grandfather. Grandmother basically was my lamb, grandfather was my lion. He put me in line, she loved on me. That got me out of where I was, and I had an arm that threw 90 miles an hour, and that helped too. So, but what ended up happening was when I got through and I was going to meet with Logan, I said, I'm done. I said, I'm going to go do something else. And he goes, what are you going to do? I said, you know, I think I'm going to go to seminary. This is the 3rd time I've tried to go to seminary. And he goes, hey, before you do, I want you to take a look at something. What it was what you now know as ID Life. Because ultimately what he had told me at that point, he goes, look, there's a lot of people that preach behind the pulpit. There's other people that should be on a different stage. And he goes, you want to help people, and you want to help people financially, emotionally, physically, and every other way possible. This can give you that vehicle. He goes, because what I'm going to do is take all of your talents and let you focus it on one thing and one thing only. And that's building the best products available and helping as many people as you can. So ultimately what happens is I travel now. I still work 20-hour days. I still work tirelessly 7 days a week. But guess what? I'm having a lot of fun. And I make half as much as I used to, but that's okay too. Because ultimately, here's what happens. We have things, you guys have seen the new product, the Kids Nutrition line. Okay, the Kids Nutrition. Here's what happened. 13 months in the making. 13 months. That was a labor of love. And here's why. The #1 vitamin in this country has 11 vitamins and minerals in it. Has a little cartoon character, runs with his bare feet. Okay? We don't talk bad about other companies here. You'll never hear that, but I will tell you that's the #1. Here's the problem with it. Those 11 vitamins and minerals don't have anything called cofactors. Those cofactors are what's necessary to actually deliver the vitamins to the organs so that they can actually be used by the body. So what ends up happening is you're spending your money on something and the kids aren't even getting what they need.
Wow.
That's what happens. Then you can go on along the line and you see that there's 18 essential vitamins and minerals. You can do a Google search, you can find all the things out there. 18 essential vitamins and minerals. The problem is they don't tell you this. There's 6 cofactors that are necessary to deliver those vitamins and minerals to the body. Not a single company out there has anything more than those 18 essential vitamins and minerals. So we started traveling around the country with our formula with the 24. And what we did is we went to every gummy manufacturer in the US and Canada, and guess what we found? No one was willing to build what it was that we had because no one had ever done it before. So then we're like, okay, fine. You know, we finally found a company in Canada that was willing to do it. Very reputable company, very long reputation. And they said, sure, no problem. And I said, okay, great. I'm coming to visit your facility. And they were like, we don't let people in our facility. I was like, I don't understand. And they said, well, no, we have a policy. We don't allow anyone in the facility. You can talk to the Canadian health inspector, and he can tell you the facility's nice. I was like, okay, I get it. This was 9 weeks before our show 2 revolutions ago. I said, no, I understand. And they said, okay, well, we just need you to send the money in for the PO. And I said, well, that's the problem. We're not going to be sending the money in because we're not going to do business together. And the guy goes, well, hold on a second. If you don't do this PO, then you're not going to be able to have these vitamins for your show. And I said, you're right, we won't. Because you know what? It was not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So we threw the gummies out the window and went to the next idea. The next idea was really fun. It was Pop Rocks. You ever had Pop Rocks as a kid? You put those things on your tongue. I mean, it had great 24 ingredients. We were ready to rock and roll, and then we brought it in for the test. And I saw moms chasing kids with little Pop Rocks all over the place, and they were dropping them on the floor, and I was like, okay, that's not going to Then we brought in the straws. The straws were really good except for one thing. Some kids drink faster than others, some don't drink the straw, they weren't getting all the vitamins, so straws were out. So we had to go to the old chewable form. And what we ended up with is something that no one else has. 24 vitamins and minerals in a chewable that kids love, tastes like a sweet tart. It took us 28 different taste varieties before we got that one right. You had to try the other 27. Glad you didn't try it. But what happens is when you're using only regular ingredients, no artificial fillers, no artificial coloring, no artificial flavoring, it takes a long time to get the taste right. But ultimately what ended up happening was 13 months. I could write a book on how to build children's nutrition in this company, in this country. 13 months, and what we ended up with is something that no one else can have. And that's just kids' nutrition. That's what we go through in every single product that we develop. It's called purposeful product development. And it's what we do at ID Life. We don't just pick products to create a Me Too product. We don't build something to say, well, they have this, so we're going to have this. We do things like this. Has anyone seen our shot? The shot? Let me tell you how the shot came about real quick. The shot was real simple. I have two teenagers. You may have seen a picture of them. They're up on the screen just briefly. I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, a junior and a senior. And their friends all came in with these little things, and they were shaking them up. And I said, do you mind if I see one of those? They say that they work for about 5 hours. And when I turned it over, what I saw was 8,333% of the vitamin B complex. Now see, the one thing that you do is when you take a lawyer that's concentrated on being an expert on things year after year after year, and whatever case was, and you let them focus just on nutrition, you learn a lot of things. Because see, the B complex results in vasodilation. Vasodilation is a widening of the veins, causing more blood flow in two areas, the inner ear and the brain. Now remember, these were teenagers, and I asked them, how many of these do you guys do a day? They said 4 or 5. 45 to 50,000%. Now, here's what happens. Can anyone in the room, and I know that you can't, so I'm going to ask the question, anyone in the room tell me what's going to happen with vasodilation like that in a developing brain that doesn't stop until you're age 22? Now, let me tell you what's going on. These things are allowed to be on the shelf, much like, anyone remember saturated fat? 12 years ago, they said, hey, saturated fat isn't bad, it's okay. Then 12 years later, like, oh, we made a mistake. So in this country, what you're dealing with is food gets on the shelf, supplements are treated as a food, just so you know. The FDA does regulate these. Common misconception is FDA does not regulate our industry. They absolutely do. They just do it different than they do pharmaceutical. Pharmaceutical, they regulate, you have to prove it's safe, then it can go on the market. A food, you have to prove that it's unsafe to get it off the market. That's how we get genetically modified organisms. Do you know 80% of the foods that we eat in this country are genetically modified? 80%. They did studies, rat and mice, so you've got to take that for what it is, rat and mice studies. But what they found in the 4th generation of feeding these rats and mice genetically modified corn, they had cellular damage at the internal organ level, and they had a loss of reproduction at 62%. Now, I saw a little one in here. Is he still here?
No, he left.
Did he run? Did he leave? Did he leave? He was a little bitty one.
Yeah, he left.
Anyway, he's 3rd generation. He's the 3rd generation right now. So what happens is when he starts having children, guess what? That's our 4th generation. So we're probably about 15 years away from learning what genetically modified organisms really do to us. And did you know that 83% of Americans said that they want labels on every food product that's genetically modified, but yet not a single label exists in this country? Most importantly is these are banned in about 32 other countries that are developed. This is what we're dealing with. So what do we do at ID Life? We say, you know what? No GMOs. We're not going to have them. It doesn't exist in our product. We do the same thing with soy. Why? 99.8%, and I used to say 100% of soy in the U.S. was genetically modified. Here's what you're going to find about me when you get a chance to hear me speak, is I always tell people fact check every single thing I say. Literally go out and fact check. We actually had a USDA certification agent that actually was in New Jersey listening to me speak once, and she wrote down everything and then went and fact checked me. This is the one thing she corrected me on. I said 100% of soy in the U.S. Is genetically modified. She sent me an email. It was kind of funny. She goes, not 100%. Actually, 0.2% is not. It is actually organic. My bad, rounding error. It's 99.8. But we do soy-free as well. So why do we do these? Why do we do these various things? Well, see, ID Nutrition is the cutting-edge science. I can't tell you we're on the beginning cusp of something that no one has ever seen before. In medicine in this country, in the next 5 to 10 years, you are going to have individualized medicine. Each one of us is a little bit different. Every one of us is a little bit different. Guess what? Drugs work differently in each one of us. Pharmaceutical drugs do. Food works differently on each one of us. Why do you think diets work for some and not for others? No, I mean, everything works a little bit differently. All we've done with nutrition is we said, you know what, science, we're not going to wait on you. We're going to leapfrog you. We're going to get out there first. And we are. It took 17 years in the making. We made it before anyone else did. That's cutting edge. But you know what? We're doing that with everything else we create as well. Because, you know, we are a health and wellness company. We're not a products company. I want everyone to understand that. We are a health and wellness company that happens to do the greatest products on the planet. How do we prove that? You see the ID assessment, if you've taken the assessment before. What does it do? It gives you the most valuable tool on the planet and does not try to sell you a single product. Now this is the ethics and morals behind ID Life. And I want everyone to understand this, because if you saw at Revolution or anything, the post-Revolution, you notice we made a little change to make sure that we can get people to really pay attention to this. But we give people a 6 to 16 page report that says if you will just make these small incremental changes. In other words, just say, hey, we're going to cut out processed meats. Small incremental changes, guess what? You're going to improve your health. Not a single ID Life product is recommended in that report. Not a single one. So what happens? We show you how to get healthy without taking a single product. People thought we were crazy. Why did we do it? It's the right thing to do. Because ultimately what happens if the person sitting in the cubicle starts to get healthy? People are going to want to know how. Because, you know why? There's so much misinformation out there, people don't know what to listen to anymore. Everybody is looking for the answer. You know, you pick up a label and it says fat-free, light, reduced fat, and you think something's good. But I can tell you a test. Next time you go to the grocery store, pick up the light version of your favorite salad dressing. Pick up the regular version. Turn them over. The light version has twice as much sugar. Those are the kind of things that are happening. Why? Because there's regulation for the back of the label, not the front of the label. At ID Life, we're always going to tell you what you need to hear. You just may not be ready to hear it. And that's the one thing that's hard, because sometimes people don't want to hear what is true.